Every week, a new band. Brought to you by NZ On Air. Active Live! Yeah.
Kia ora koutou katoa, no mai, haere mai. Welcome to the Radioactive.fm live room for this, The Active Live, brought to you by our wonderful friends at NZ On Air Music. Today we are joined by the incomparable Estère. Kia ora, Estère, thank you so much for being here.
Kia ora, thank you for having me.
It's so lovely to have you here, and especially to celebrate the Mākara EP release that's coming up very soon.
Thank you.
We're so excited about that. I wanted to start by talking a bit about the release itself, the EP, which was released sort of late last year. Can you tell us a bit about how it came to be?
Yeah, so I wrote Mākara Peak in lockdown last year, and the mountain that is outside my studio is called Mākara Peak, and I looked at it every day, and it was my muse for the music. So I made all the music during lockdown while we were all, restricted in terms of our social activity. And for me, it was like an outlet to imagine being social and like being together with people and dancing and like sharing spaces. So that was very much kind of what drove the EP.
Beautiful. It's interesting, the juxtaposition of you were recording it in isolation and lockdown, but the whole EP is about movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool juxtaposition to work with. How did you find putting yourself into the space of movement when things were, for lack of a better word, a bit stagnant?
Therapeutic. It was a very therapeutic exercise for me, making Mākara Peak. And because a lot of like the research that I did in terms of the production for the EP was listening to other tracks and like other dance tracks and stuff, I was just dancing a lot, just trying to digest like what I was listening to and the rhythms and stuff. And so, yeah, I'd say that if anything, Mākara Peak was like a cathartic, like therapeutic exercise for me to deal with the effects that lockdown was having on me. Yeah.
Amazing. I really appreciate the use of the word cathartic there. I think that is something this music kind of gives to people too. I've definitely found, especially for it's a very summery EP in my mind, and having that kind of release. And because I'm not a big dancer, but it's definitely something that makes me want to shake my booty. Do you know what I mean? It's really nice having a release a cathartic release like that from the music.
Oh, great.
Something I really loved about this EP, and I feel like it's something you've always done really amazingly, but you've really honed in on your use of your voice as an instrument in this EP. I feel particularly in songs like Oh Well and Conversation with Daddy, there's a lot of kind of percussive intentions with your voice, which I really appreciate. Can you tell us a bit about your relationship to vocals as an instrument and the choices that you made vocally in this EP?
Yeah, I think my relationship to my voice is always changing, and it was definitely something that I was excited by. So thanks for noticing. In terms of starting to use my voice like percussively, and I feel like with the voice there are two aspects. There's like the content that it's delivering in terms of lyrics, and then there's the like more musical, emotive element of the voice and how that gets put into music. And sometimes you can hear like songwriters prioritizing one or the other, which is real interesting. And definitely for Mākara Peak, like lyrics are always really important for me, and I can't ever let go of like caring about the lyrics, but working with the percussive side of things was probably more so important for me for this EP.
Yeah, I totally get that, because I think there's a real juxtaposition between some of the lyrical content in this, which is you're asking big questions, do you know what I mean? Like songs like Conversation with Daddy and like Oh Well really have a big meaning to them and a big, you're questioning a lot behind them. And I think it's interesting juxtaposing that with the way you use your vocals to kind of bring, and forgive me, I'm misinterpreting here, but it kind of brings a bit of an upbeat quality to kind of sadder topics, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. I seem to always gravitate towards kind of like existential crisis, like sad topics, but then like make them really bouncy and fun.
That's what I love. It's the perfect combination,
weird,
you know? Oh, no, that's really awesome. And speaking of which, songs like BPM are a really good example of bringing that kind of fun, exciting thing. And you used a lot of really interesting sample sounds in that I wanted to chat a little bit about.
Yeah.
Obviously, the hook pipe is a big one that we've heard about before, but also things like ASMR and mukbang samples.
Yeah.
How did you decide to bring them them involved or to get them involved, I should say? And what do you feel they bring to the song in general?
So I got into found sound recordings in lockdown. Once again, I was making like little demo tracks of random samples of things I'd find around the house, and I got into listening to ASMR, and I also, for some reason, like my Instagram algorithm kept on bringing me mukbang videos, which I just like would watch. So obviously, like I was telling the algorithm I was into it, and so I started to just be way more aware of that kind of whole world of sound and like sensation that sound can produce. So I was like, oh, it will be fun to work in ASMR and like that idea of mukbang into the music, just to kind of give an extra like sensory experience.
I definitely feel that the sensory experiences are really, like the sensations that come with things like ASMR and mukbang are quite visceral. There's a physical kind of feeling to it, do you know what I mean? Which suits the kind of physicality of this album, EP, because there's so much, it's a very physical EP, if you know what I mean. It's very, very cool. Can you tell us what track we're going to have first off? Should we have a track now?
Yeah, so I'm going to do Oh Well first, but I'm going to do it with an intro that I've written, which is a new thing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, that's exciting. Thanks for bringing that here.
No worries.
Lucky, active
My
listeners.
pleasure. Cool. Here I go.
Il faut travailler dur dans cette vie.
Mais moi, je ne suis pas certaine du futur. Je dois apprendre quelque chose. Mais quoi? Je ne sais pas. Generation down now, baby, not down all the world now. From the cradle to the grave now, baby, not down all the world. Generation down now, baby, not down all the world now. From the cradle to the grave now, baby, not down all the world. I tell myself, oh well.
Amazing. Gosh, I've been listening to that song so much. It's so cool hearing it live. Oh my God. Thank you so much for that. And amazing dance moves too. I really wanted to chat about next the high concept videos you had in this, particularly the dancing in the videos for Oh Well and BPM. Can you tell us a bit about how those videos came to be and the dance collaborations that you did in those?
Yes. So the first video, BPM, I worked with Shaquille Wasasala, Half Queen, on making the video, and Lesheho was the person that Shaq got in to choreograph BPM, and then I loved working with Lesheho, so I asked her to work on Oh Well as well. So we had a choreographer, the same choreographer for both of the videos, and yeah, for both videos, like a dance crew was assembled, and Lesheho kind of taught like the choreo for the video, and I learned the choreo too, but kind of like more simplified versions of what the dancers were doing. And yeah, it was just like such a dream because everyone involved in making all the videos were just such a great team of people, and like, yeah, just my people. So it was real fun.
Definitely. I think your people's a really good I wanted to chat a bit about that concept as well, because you've worked with some incredible people in the past, and some of them have come back, like Pascalino Scala.
Yeah.
You've got Ezra Simmons, you've got Tamina Apa as well, all of these incredible local creatives. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit, as an artist that is, you are so defined and you are so intentional about your image and the way that your image is portrayed, how do you find working with other creatives like that and collaborating together on a single project?
I love it. It's like one of my favorite things about being creative. It's like when you can completely surrender and trust someone else's like vision, and it merges with yours. It's such a like joyous feeling, and it's also like a relief because like for a long time I was pretty DIY, and it's really nice to kind of work. Yeah, I just really enjoy collaborating with people who bring something new to the table that I wouldn't have otherwise like thought of. Like even with Tamina, when we did BPM, she was taking like backstage shots and just like shots on her film camera. Everything was on film for BPM, so all the video footage. Ezra Simmons was the DOP, and we had 20 minutes of film footage. That was it, and we shot for 12 hours. So like every single scene we shot, we had to rehearse like meticulously, had to do all the like lighting, rigging, and Ezra had to like get the camera, which was huge, like this big, into position. But anyway, Tamina shot these like great images during the shoot, and like I've ended up using them reoccurringly for like, I don't know, different things, like my different profiles, and for different PR, and it's just something that like I wouldn't have otherwise, done or thought of. So yeah, it's just really, really cool to have like other people and their visions and like their creative energy involved in something. And it's a privilege as well. Like I feel lucky to work with people. I don't know. So yeah.
I love that. And it's amazing. I really feel that you feel that intention, particularly in that video. I mean, the Civic Theatre as well is just because it was the Civic Theatre in Auckland. Is that right? Where you shot it?
Yeah.
And that space in itself is so beautiful and regal. And then kind of the intention you feel behind that video is really apparent. And I think that's just a showcase of how well you all collaborate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah. And Oh Wow was like awesome because it was a Wellington crew and just like working with like some of the dancers in Wellington, and we did it at like our friend's flat that I've been going to parties at for years. So it was quite like nostalgic. Yeah.
That's really cool. I love the embrace of the local as well as kind of embracing local talent across the motu. I think that's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting back to kind of the EP's sound as well, you worked with John Lemon on the mix for this. Can you tell us a bit about collaborating with them and how that came to be?
Yeah, so I worked with John and Ben Lemmy.
Of course.
So it was interesting because like with this EP, I ended up... it was probably like a little bit annoying to work with because I ended up like coming to the realization that I have to be able to mix my production in order for it to like hit the markers that I'm picturing in my head. Like mixing is such a big part of it. And so John and Ben were both really great to work with and really accommodating because essentially what I do is I would send them the wet stems of the track. So I would mix it. I mixed the tracks and then I sent them the mix that I did. And then they had to mix my mix. And then they sent it back and then I mixed their mix. And it's just like, and I've always kind of operated like that, but it's just always, it's always kind of been like a little bit more like emotional and like, oh, I just have to, sorry, can you just send me the stems because I just really have to make these changes and stuff like for previous projects. Whereas for this project, I was like, look, I think this is how I'm going to have to do it. Like I'm going to have to mix it, send you, do you know what I mean? And it was like, that had to be part of the production structure because, like mixing is, like putting on a reverb or putting on a delay or like doing some kind of vocal effect to your voice can make or break a track.
100%. And I think this EP as well is really focused on intentional smaller choices, if you know what I mean, which I can imagine when you're mixing with other people involved, there's a lot of making sure that your sentiment is still there while working and intending to have their sentiment in it too. I can imagine that's an interesting thing to balance.
It is, yeah. And, if you send someone... So I think we did do one dry track, which was... I think it was BPM. But then John had to pretty much mimic everything that I'd mixed in because otherwise it just sounded so different. Do you know what I mean? Like it didn't sound like the track that I made. So that was like an interesting journey with the like mixing of it, but really good because I felt like I gained more clarity in terms of the process that works for me as a producer, to be honest. And then I had some chats with some other producers and they were like, yeah, that's what we always do. And I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't someone tell me? Why didn't someone tell me that was like normal? I just thought I was being a pain. Yeah.
People don't explain this stuff though, particularly for an artist that's all encompassing like you go woe to go from writing and producing and mixing and doing everything involved. No one explains that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome that you're learning that on the fly, but it's definitely come through in an awesome way in the EP too.
Thank you.
So you worked with Blue Riot, speaking of Ben Lemmy, on this release.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that label? We love them. We love everything. We've been pretty much playing everything they've been releasing recently.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, tell us a bit about the relationship you have with them and why you decided to release this EP through there.
Okay, so Blue Riot is a record label that I founded.
I thought so. I had my suspicions.
Yeah. And I've worked, but now Anna Edgington, she came on board really early on and we've been like growing and developing it together. And so we've like done a bunch of different releases. We did like Zoe, like a track for Zoe, Bubbles. We did a Dawn Diver track, Thirsty Critters. We did an Anna and Carnan track, which was a stone's throw, and then my staff, Louisa Williamson, we re-released her album. Not re-released, we released. And so it's like just been really, the whole ethos of Blue Riot is to kind of offer like support and like an open gate to artists that might otherwise be ignored despite their incredible talent because of the industry status quo and because they don't fit the industry status quo. And it's been like a really fruitful project. Anna and I like really enjoy working together on it, and it's just inspiring because we have like visions for it that we're really excited about. So yeah, that's Blue Riot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that sentiment. And it must be really interesting for you as an artist to kind of get into the label side of things at the same time, if you know what I mean. How have you felt building a label while you're continuing to build an EP?
Yeah, it's really interesting because the reason that I felt confident to start the label in the first place was because I had so much experience with self-releasing, and so I'd learned a lot of like the industry back end through doing that, and I was like, well, I think that this is something that, you know, could be offered to other people. And I found it really cool also working with Anna and like sharing a vision and then getting like challenged and pushed to kind of like go into like territory that I might not have thought I would go into in terms of like owning and running a label through working with other people. And it's an opportunity to create community and like kind of make we really want to make positive changes within the industry, and I think we already have because of some of the things that have happened, the flow-on effects of what we've been doing. So yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome, and I really appreciate that. I think making those sorts of changes is always something that can be a hard decision, but a fruitful decision as well,
Yeah.
to be able to make positive change in an industry that kind of has its status quo down. Already.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the industry status quo is so boring.
It
Let's
is.
move on from that.
I love that you are helping us move on from that.
Yeah.
Should we have another song?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. What have we got next up?
I was going to perform BPM, seeing as we were talking about the video.
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited to hear this one. Well, I'm excited to hear it all, let's be honest.
Yay. This is a feeling that no one else controls. I'll be the Sistine and you'll be the Fresco. Our bodies touching in a Renaissance painting. Head is gone empty, moving steady, ready to go on a ride. We're gonna be posted, yeah. All the pulse that is rising, fall to the drum, baby, yeah. We're gonna be impulsive again. All the pulse that is rising, fall to the drum, baby, yeah. I am a Highland daughter. My blood is up, but do my side. Catch you right in my corner. So sweat out the fire water. I wanna dance to fire. I need the rhythm so that I survive. This is a ritual space. We are a spiritual race. Getting the vibe right. Freaking out through the night. Where you going to die? Better to wonder our time. So we are gonna be impulsive again. All the pulse that is rising, fall to the drum, baby, yeah. We're gonna be impulsive again. All the pulse that is rising, fall to the drum, baby, yeah. We're gonna be impulsive again. All the pulse that is rising, fall to the bite, walk to the bite. Get your body rocking down, down. Kick it to the left, walk to the right. Get your body rocking down, down. Walk to the bite, walk to the bite. Get your body rocking down. Ooh, gonna be impulsive again. Pull my pulse and it's rise and fall to the drum, baby, yeah. We're gonna be impulsive again. Pull my pulse and it's rise and fall to the drum, baby, yeah,
Oh, that's such a great track. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Now, we're so excited to obviously hearing it live here is amazing, but we're so excited about your show, the EP release that's coming up very soon.
Thank you.
It's going to be so much fun.
I'm so excited too.
It's going to be great. It must be crazy, like, finally getting the chance to play this across the motu.
Yeah, it's it just feels right, you know, like, I suppose when you, like, deliver a new piece of work, you really want to honour it. And I feel like performing it live and touring it is the best way to kind of like honour it and give it its first foot forward when it comes out to the world. So yeah.
Definitely, and especially with this show, there's so much intention behind everything. You know, you've hired a choreographer, Kayla Page. Is that right? Who you worked with on? Is that Wow? You worked with as well?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I met Kayla while I was doing World of Wearable Arts last year, and she was incredible. Just like there were like 50 dancers, and she was like making them all move into as one creature, and like making them kind of just bring the stage to life in a way that I haven't seen before. So it was amazing. And so yeah, I asked Kayla to choreograph this show.
Amazing, yeah, because it's going to be you and two professional dancers. Is that correct?
Yeah, two awesome dancers. Ethan and Bianca are their names, and both of them are beautiful dancers from Auckland.
Amazing. That's so cool. Can you tell us a bit about, because obviously you're very you incorporate movement in a lot of your performances anyway, but can you tell us a bit about how you're making space for both of these mediums, music and dance, while on this tour specifically?
Yeah, so this show is going to be very much about like the action of dancing, the joy of dancing, and kind of like bringing all the concept of the songs into like the dancers' bodies, and encouraging the audience also to just like experience it and have a great time. For me, one of my favorite things to see at a live show is movement, especially when it's like choreographed and there's like concept and intention behind it. It's just like, because you know, like a lot of performance is visual, right? Like we're seeing the visual cues of someone hitting the drums or like playing the bass or playing the guitar. And for me, like dancing is so ultimate in that, because it's literally the print of the music onto someone's body. You know what I mean?
That's a beautiful way of phrasing that. I love it. That's amazing too, because holding space for both in a way that's so, as you say, intentional is a really hard thing to do. You know, especially when it's your show and all of the intention is yours to put in.
Yeah.
How have you found that in rehearsals and just in general? How have you found balancing those two things?
Well, I love dynamics in a show, and so I feel like with this one, it's going to be very much like, you know, different things happening at different times, and you know, at points of the show, I'll be like, you know, front and center with the dancers dancing, but then at other points, like I might not be there really at all, or like I'll be in the background, and the dancers will be conveying something with their bodies, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like there's going to be quite a lot of dynamics in that, and I feel like that's what I'm really excited about working into the show. And Kayla's just amazing at coming up with those kinds of like dynamics and ideas. So yeah, I think it's going to be awesome.
That is going to be so awesome. And I think dynamic is a really good word for the EP in general. You know, I think there's a lot of really dynamic and interesting kind of choices and sounds in it that I'm really excited to see echoed in the dancing too. That's such a cool thing to do. Now, with this tour, you're playing on Waiheke Island, which isn't a common place to play.
I know.
Yeah, how'd that come about?
It's my home away from home, so that's why I was like born on Waiheke, and I've got a lot of family there. And actually, my manager lives on Waiheke, and she's helping put on the show. So
shout out to Zan.
Shout out to Zan, and shout out to Anthony Metcalf as well, 100% Good, who's my booking agent, who's also booked all the venues.
Also
I'm grateful, really grateful to those guys, because none of this would happen without them. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to playing on Waiheke, because I don't know, it's just like, it's gonna feel like full circle.
Beautiful. It is, and I think it's a really lovely theatre that you'll be performing into. It really performing in theatre spaces and just non-gig related spaces has kind of become a bit of a thing recently. You performed in LA at a barber shop recently too.
Oh I did. Yeah. So I had my EP came out on the 2nd of December, Mākara Peak, and I was in LA at the time, and my friends were like, "Oh, you should have an EP release in LA," and I was like, it seems like a bit wild, but sure. So that's how it happened. And my friend actually went to a barber shop around the corner from his house, and it was a really cool barber shop. It was like queer-owned, black-owned barber shop that also doubled as a venue.
Amazing.
So
what a combination.
They had like a little bar and stuff, and yeah, so just like got a bunch of my friends in for the release and performed the EP with my friend Korean, who's like an awesome artist and DJ over there, and it was like very random, but also really fun. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How does it feel performing in these non-gig related spaces? You've obviously done WOW, which is it's a gig, but it's not a gig. Do you know what I mean? It's a whole bunch more than that.
Yeah.
How does it feel performing in those spaces?
Well, it was quite funny because that was like my first gig after WOW.
Oh, really?
Like performing in this like barber shop in downtown LA, and it was like I think you take a performance for what it is at any given point. So like. Like it's so awesome to be here and active, and like I'm obviously standing here alone, and so, like I make that performance what it is, like with me here, and then it's the same in any capacity. Even if I'm on stage, like at WOW in front of 4,000 people, and there's like dancers everywhere, and I'm in costume, it's still like it's just the spectrum of being a performer and an artist, and so. In LA, it was very much that, like, it was me and Korean at the front, like, just grooving and, like, having fun. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think that's a really important thing for artists in general to remember. Like, it's that whole concept. I can't remember who said this, but it wasn't me. Someone said, like, when you're performing, you only perform for one person, or you perform for 1,000 people, but you're always intending on that one person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's really echoed in that sentiment there.
Absolutely. And honestly, like, the bigger the audiences that I've played in front of, the less, like, connection you feel, because, like, everyone becomes like part of a tapestry. So like it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like performing in this context is way more intense,
I can imagine,
than performing in front of 4,000 people, because just like you're not having the same energy exchange, and it's not the same kind of like one-on-one like interaction. So I don't know, like I've heard of really famous bands, for example, like purposefully putting on really tiny club shows, like in downtown London or whatever, and just like inviting 20 people so they can have that experience again of that spectrum, right? Of like being a performer and feeling that,
Yeah, that intimacy between artist and audience, and particularly when you're employing physicality in the same way that you do, is a really powerful, for lack of a better word, contract that you bring to the table. Do you know what I mean? You giving yourself over as an artist and them giving themselves in as an audience member. Obviously I do a bit of this interviewing work here and there, and it's a really interesting process seeing artists kind of engage on this, which is a particularly intimate setting, as you said, compared to on stage and things.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a very interesting thing, and thank you for being here as well with that.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's lovely having you here. Should we hear another song?
Yes, let's do another song. I was thinking we will do Melt.
Yay. Can you tell us a bit about Melt very quickly as well?
So I started the lyrics for Melt while I was in Rarotonga on holiday with my partner, who is Pascalino Scholler, the video director.
Oh, wow.
So that's why we work together a lot. I mean, he's great.
Work well together, of course.
Yeah, we work well together. And this was just like essentially a love song. And about, if you're far away from each other or feeling distant, just to kind of listen to this song.
Oh, beautiful sentiment. I love it.
Yeah. So this is Melt. Like a fisherman's boat, following along the coast, I'ma keep an eye on you while I'm gone. When you're missing me most, yeah, you wishing I was close, I might be available on the phone. I know I can't sing. You make me melt, melt like the wicked witch of the west. There'll be other choices, other desires raise their voices, but it's in you that I'm rejoicing. You're so disarming, genuine as you were charming. I try not to take that for granted, know that. I know I can't sing. But I work real hard to be vulnerable with you. My long-time lover, if you're the heat, then I'm the butter. You make me melt, melt like the wicked witch of the west.
Amazing. Gosh, that is so... I love that lyric so much. Melt like the wicked witch of the west. That is so good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today, Esther. It's
Thank
been
you for
so
having
lovely
me.
having you here.
Yeah.
For the last question I have for you today, what is the number one thing that you hope your audience takes away from these shows?
I want them to take away joy and connectivity to themselves and to what makes them feel good. And I want them to have, I want to meet them halfway with emotion and joy through the act of dancing and celebrating with their bodies and their minds and souls. So I'm always really grateful to my audiences at shows because, I'm giving them my energy and they're giving me their energy, and that's a transaction that I really value. So I'm just hoping people will have fun.
I am 100% sure they will.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. You can catch Estère on the Mākara Peak EP release. You can catch her at Auckland in Whammy Bar on March 25th, here in our very own Wellington at Meow on April 1st, and then on Waiheke at the Artworks Theatre on April 21st. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been lovely having you, and a big shout out to NZDT Music as well.
Active Live. Friday, 3:30. Every week a new band. In studio. Brought to you by NZ On Air.